Hey, what's up, sexy people? My name is Chris Martinez. Of course, I am the host of Operation Agency Freedom. And today I'm going to talk about how to price out your website projects so that you maximize your profitability. I am obsessed with profitability, just so that you guys know. Actually, the other day, I think it was yesterday, actually, I saw somebody on Facebook that said, I don't care about profitability. And I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with you, man? Like, you need to be profitable. If you're listening to this podcast, I'm guessing that you don't have $100 million, seed round of investing to help you build your digital agency. The majority of us, the overwhelming majority of us, started from nothing. And for myself, I started from less than nothing because I owed a bunch of money from my first failed business because I had all this debt, right? So a lot of you guys are starting from a place of zero. So I think that we need to be focused on profit from the outset of starting our agency. If you think that you're going to make it up on the back end or that profit will come later, you're just setting yourself up for a much more difficult journey as an entrepreneur than you need to. Specifically, what drives me nuts is when people are not profitable with their website projects. And I know tons of people who say, I hate websites. Like, I don't like doing them. We never make any money off of them. And if I could, I would just stop doing them altogether. Or maybe you've already stopped offering websites altogether because they're difficult. It's not, if you don't have the right framework, you don't have the right systems in place, websites can be an absolute nightmare. Well, one of the first things that screws you up on getting a website done and getting it done profitably is the pricing. 90% of you guys out there are way undercharging. And I'm not talking about like undercharging by like $50. You guys are undercharging by like thousands and thousands of dollars. So on today's episode, I'm specifically going to teach you how to price out these projects appropriately so that you get them done on time and on budget, and that you, the agency owner, are making money off of everything. Now, I am of the belief that if your finger touches a keyboard, you should be getting paid for it. Call me crazy, but you deserve to get paid for the work that you do. So if you are currently struggling with pricing out your websites, if your websites are not profitable, and if you're even considering canceling selling websites altogether, then pay close attention, take lots of notes. This episode is going to change your life. I wish I knew this information at the beginning when I started my agency nearly 10 years ago. But now that I know it, obviously here at Dude, I'm running a much more profitable business. I personally make a lot more money as well. And we have an amazing team, and we can invest in the things that are going to help the company to grow, all because we like profit and we feel like we deserve to be a profitable business. So as you're listening to this, make sure that you go to the website. Of course, that's where I'm going to put all the show notes and any links that I talk about. And then if you have not done this already, make sure that you subscribe, not just because I'm such a nice guy and you want to help me out, but because when you subscribe, you guarantee that you're always going to be the first to know when our next episode drops. And I talk about some cool shit, guys. Like, don't you want to hear this stuff all the time? So with that being said, I'm going to head over to the full episode. I'll see you guys over there in a second. All right, we are back. We are going to talk about how to price out your website projects so that you maximize your profit. Now, one thing that I forgot to mention too is I don't know what your life's mission is. Typically, us agency owners have passions outside of just running the agency. I love philanthropy. So one of the things that being a more profitable company has done for me is that I am able to take some of my profit that we've generated and reinvest that back into charities and causes that I believe in. So very recently, we found an animal shelter down here in Mexico that we knew that was doing good work. They were referred to us by a friend in the States. We went down and we checked it out, and we said, this is a charity that we really, really believe in. And we ended up donating a bunch of money to them, and we helped them build like this room that would house the animals that come in that are too sick or have like a disease like mange or something like that, where they can't go into a kennel with the general population. So they said this is like an absolutely urgent need. At the time when we walked in, like these animals were just in a crate exposed to the elements. And so we said, hey, here you go. So they built that quarantine room. It's now called the Dude Room. And we recently went down there and checked it out, and it's awesome. I mean, it gives these animals a better shot at survival, which, you know, we're very passionate about. I love dogs. I have 2 dogs. And this would not be possible if we were not a profitable company. So having profit not only makes you feel good, it not only gives you more income, and not only allows your business to grow, but it gives you the opportunities to pursue these other passions, like for me, philanthropy, for example. More profit allows you to do those nice things for other people. So with that being said, I'm going to start off by saying how much I absolutely hate losing money on websites. I not only hate it for me, but I hate it for you. I probably hate losing money on websites more than you hate losing money on websites. You do not deserve to lose money on your projects, no matter what it is, but especially on websites. So many people struggle when it comes to websites. And one of the things that's killing you before you even start with design and development, or, you know, your wireframes, or doing your onboarding, whatever it is the price that you gave the client. You guys are ultimately guessing about how to price out your projects. I'm going to show you how to fix that, of course. But if you feel like you're just blindly throwing a dart at the dartboard and be like, well, I feel like that's what I should charge, there's a better way to do it. If you're not making money on your websites right now, and what I believe is that at the end of the day, every website, every project, everything your agency does, you should have at least 30% net income, net profit in your agency. So we would definitely want to help you fix that. And again, if you're already tired of doing websites, or you've already thrown in the towel on doing websites because you feel like it's just so freaking frustrating and you don't make any money, then definitely pay attention to this episode, because we're going to talk all about this. And everything that I teach you guys, anybody can do. Like, I am not a genius. I don't have some special powers that allow me to be able to profit on websites. I'm pretty disciplined. I've had some really good mentors, and I have a great team around me, but everything that I teach you, anybody can do it. So there is a big question that I want to ask you guys, first of all, and that I get asked. It's, why in the world is doing websites so freaking difficult? Why is it so hard? Why is quoting out website projects so hard? I should say, why is it hard for you? Because it's not hard for me. The reason is that you don't have data. Data is the most important thing when you're quoting out website projects. You don't have the historical data to go back to say, how much time did this actually take us for this similar type of project? Or sometimes it's for the exact same thing. So without that data, you're ultimately guessing. Well, also, if you don't have the correct data, then you're undershooting. You're undercutting yourself. So for example, like time tracking, right? I talked about time tracking ad nauseum with you guys. It's so important. Well, let's say half your team isn't doing it. Well, you have the wrong data. You're going to kill yourself, like in the project, not literally, but you're killing yourself in terms of trying to grow your agency because you don't have the correct data. So without the correct data, you are setting yourself up for failure. I'm going to use a little analogy. I've talked about this when I'm on the stage, I'll use this analogy, but I don't know how many of you guys have ever worked at a restaurant before. I think it should be a requirement that everybody work in a restaurant for at least 3 months. One, because it'll give you such a better appreciation of what restaurant employees go through on a daily basis, on an hourly basis. And two, it'll help you to stick up for the restaurant workers when people are being fucking assholes to them for no fault of their own. Now, don't get me wrong. Like, there are some restaurant workers that do a bad job, and so they're not all like completely blameless. But there's a lot more dickheads who are just rude to these people because they feel like, for some reason, that restaurant workers are below them. That they're like, they deserve to be spoken down to or something like that, which is bullshit. But I digress. So when I was in high school, my very first W-2 job was working at Chuck E. Cheese. So hopefully you know what Chuck E. Cheese is, the place with the giant mouse, and they used to have the animatronic, band that would play. And so in my city, there was, a Chuck E. Cheese. It was maybe 20 minutes from my house. I had worked before, like my very first job, I was like 10 years old, I think. And I worked as a paperboy. So I've always worked. But this was like my first real job. So I was 17 years old when I started there. And it was my first job where like the government actually took taxes out of my paycheck. Which was super fun to learn about. And so for those of you that don't know, that there was this dude who started Chuck E. Cheese, or the company Chuck E. Cheese was actually started by this guy named Nolan Bushnell, I think his last name is. Let me just Google that actually. Nolan Bush. Yes, Nolan Bushnell. He was one of the co-founders of Atari. So Chuck E. Cheese was originally started as a place for Atari to showcase the games. Well, Chuck E. Cheese took off, of course, and they were making a ton of money. Not only were they selling, video games because of the experiences that people were having at Chuck E. Cheese, but the business itself became very, very successful and very, very profitable. So I'm 17 years old. It's 1997, and I am a cashier. So people always ask me if I was the mouse. I was never the mouse. I didn't get the training. That was my excuse, because Chuck E. Cheese had amazing SOPs, like really, really good SOPs for every single department. Now, did I understand that back then when I was 17? No, but now that I'm 41 and I run a business and I see the value of SOPs and of company culture and just running a very, very successful business, I look back on that experience and I'm like, man, there were so many things that Chuck E. Cheese did right. So one of the SOPs that they had at Chuck E. Cheese for the cashiers was, and this is 1997, so it was before a lot of people were using like credit cards and debit cards. Still very, very much a cash-based business. So on the weekends, there was like 5 cash registers that everybody would go to. So I was like the first person that they would see. And then of course they had the menu behind me. And so the people would stand in line and they figure out what they want to order. And then they come to me and they tell me what they want. I place the order. And then my cash register opens when I click, sale or whatever. And the people then would hand me cash typically. So I would take that cash, and my 1s, 5s, 10s, 20s would stay in the register. Anytime somebody gave me 100, I would have a little box underneath my register. It's about a little bit bigger than a shoebox, and it had a slot in it. And there was a door there was a door with a slot, and the door locked. So I would drop my $100 bills below into that box. Also, if I had too many 20s in my register, so that like literally like sometimes the register would be so full of cash that I couldn't close it. So I would take those bills and I would drop them down into that little money box that was below my register. Now, keep in mind, there's 5, I think there was like 5 registers up there. Every register has that little money box. On a weekend, on a Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, the management would have to come over and clean out that money box because it was too full. Like literally, we could not stuff more 100s and 20s into that box. It would be emptying out that box 3 times an hour, at least 3 times an hour, because it was so full of cash. Hopefully that paints a really good picture as to how much money was actually flowing through Chuck E. Cheese. It was absolutely insane. So Chuck E. Cheese is making a ton of money. I personally was not getting paid a lot. I was making, I think my 90-day trial period back then was like $4.54 an hour. So like after taxes, I was making like $3.50. It was horrible. But the managers were making really good money. I remember I made friends with a manager. He was only 10 years older than me, I think, at the time, but he seemed like grandpa back then. He was like 27, 28 years old, right? And I'm like 17, 18. And for some reason, he told me how much money he was making and how easy his job was. He was making 70 grand a year in 1997, which today's standards probably what, like 120? 130, managing a pizzeria. Like he was managing a pizza place and he was making today's equivalent of like 130 G's. Like I'm sure there's a lot of you guys that are listening and you guys don't even make 130 G's and you have way more skills in terms of, design and development talent. And why the heck is this guy making so much money running a pizza place and dealing with stinky kids? Well, it's because they had such good systems and processes, guys, and they knew how to price things out and they knew how to get things done very, very affordably. So when I was working the register, one of the most popular packages that we would sell would be like a large supreme pizza, 4 sodas, and like, I don't know, 200 tokens or something like that. Keep in mind that the people think that the tokens are valuable. The tokens are nothing. Like it's literally a machine, or it's a coin that goes into a game, and the price of the game is not set. It's made up. So when people get the coins, they think each coin's like 25 cents. It's not really 25 cents. It's whatever I tell you. So the real hard cost in that whole transaction was the pizza. That's the biggest expense. So ultimately they were selling a pizza for like $30, right? Large supreme pizza in 1997 for $30. Like that's obscenely expensive back then, but people paid, right? They paid because they love the experience and the Chucky and blah, 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 blah. The kids are screaming, so just give me the damn pizza. So when I would put that order in for the pizza, press the buy button, pay me the money, the order goes back to the kitchen. Now here's where it gets really, really fascinating. The cooks in the kitchen, they had a little chart. It was literally like a printout chart that was laminated. And on that chart, it said a large supreme pizza gets this much mushrooms in weight, this much pepperonis in weight, this much mozzarella cheese in weight. So the cooks were actually weighing the food before it actually went onto the pizza. Now, why did they do this? Why did they weigh all the ingredients? Because technically, it would have been faster for the chefs to just grab the food and start throwing it on pizza and put the pizza on the oven, right? But Chuck E. Cheese knew something. They knew that it was so important that they had to control their food costs, that they would allow for the chefs to take longer to cook the pizza because they knew that it was going to save them money on the food costs. I hope that makes sense to everybody. So Chuck E. Cheese knew that if I'm selling that pizza for $30, I'm going to get that pizza made for $5. And then I'm going to profit the 25. And I can use that 25 and reinvest it back into my business, reinvest it back into hiring great people who are going to keep this machine running. And then in the end, I'm going to make a whole lot more money too. Everybody wins. That's why Chuck E. Cheese did things the way that they did. That's why they had everybody weighing their ingredients, not because, or they did it in spite of it there being a faster way, but they knew that controlling the food costs was way more important. So in our business, so like you're probably thinking like, what the fuck does Chuck E. Cheese have to do with my web design and development agency or running my agency in general? In our business, what do you think our ingredients are? What do you think are the pepperonis, the mushrooms, the olives, the bell peppers, the cheese, the dough? What is that in our business? It's time, guys. It's time. Our biggest expense in running an agency is typically production labor time, production labor costs. That's our biggest expense. So you need to control your production labor and the time that goes into those projects if you want to grow your agency and if you want to be a profitable agency. There's a quote that I found. I kind of tweaked it a little bit for us. It says, take care of the minutes and the dollars will take care of themselves. If you are tracking the minutes in your business, that will translate into more dollars in your pocket. Guaranteed. So let's go specifically into how to price out website projects. So the first thing that you want to do is you want to sell on value, right? I am a huge proponent of value-based pricing. You need to understand what is the value, and typically in a financial perspective, that website, that ad campaign, whatever it is that you're selling, what is the financial value that has to your client if and when it works? So if your client is looking to grow by $1 million and you price out your website at $100,000, who's not going to spend $100,000 to make $1 million? If you can actually get them results, why wouldn't somebody invest in that? I would. If you can say, I'm going to make $1 million, I'll give you $100,000 right now. So that's the first thing, is you want to price out your projects based on value. The second thing, and this is where everybody gets it wrong for the most part, is you're not looking at the time and your cost of goods, which includes your production labor. You're not tracking that. So you need to look at that. So what if you sell your project, or if you tell the client, or the client says, I'm looking to make $1 million from this, and you price it out, your project out at $100,000. I didn't go to Harvard Business School, but if it costs you $150,000 to get that project and you sold it for $100,000, pretty sure you're going to go out of business. So you always need to look at the cost of goods. You always need to know what your labor is going to be for design, for development, for copywriting, for project management. Every single person who touches that project, you need to know how much time it's going to take for them to get that project done. So one thing that you need to consider is that you definitely deserve to make what you're worth. So here's a simple formula to determine whether or not you should be doing this work or not. Take the amount of money that you want to make this year, whether that be, let's just say $100,000. Okay. I'm going to take 100,000. I'm using my calculator right here. And I'm going to divide that number by 2,087. Now, what is 2,087? 2,087 is the number of work hours in a year. Now, that's typically based around a 40-hour work week. I know that we work more hours than that, but just take whatever your salary is that you want to make for the year and divide it by 2,087. So I took 100,000. I'm going to divide it by 2087. What's that number? So for me, it's $47.92. That is your hourly rate. If you want to make 100 grand, your time is valued at $47.92. So anything that's not $47.92 in terms of value, like you shouldn't be touching. Like you should be having somebody else do that work. Very, very simple concept. I hope you understand that. So as you're going through your website projects, most likely you can find somebody to do those projects for less than $47.92. If you want to make 100 grand. Now, let's say that you have designers and developers that are doing the work for you. Then obviously, like, you need them to track their time. You need them to make sure that they are sticking to the budget that you have set out for that website project. If they're not tracking time, you're never going to make money. I hate to be brutally honest with you. It is actually, I don't hate to be brutally honest with you. I love being brutally honest with you guys. You need to track your fucking hours. You don't track your hours, you will never be profitable. You will never maximize your profitability. You will never be able to achieve all the goals that you want in your agency. So time tracking tools, very quickly. It's not hard to find them, but ClickUp has a built-in time tracking tool in there. We have a lot of people that use ClickUp. If you have ClickUp, just use that one. Very simple. We use Freshdesk. If you want to use Freshdesk, they have time tracking in there. It's very, very comprehensive. Time Doctor. Liam was one of my, I interviewed him on the podcast a while back. Liam Martin, I think his last name is Martin. Canadian guy. He runs Time Doctor. Clockify is another one. And then the big one, of course, is Harvest that integrates with a lot of different accounting software. Those are 4 tools. Time Doctor is super cheap. It's like $10 a month. So there's no excuse not to use a time tracking tool. So that's how you're going to price out those projects and how you can start to build up your own database, right? Your own hours reporting of past projects, right? But that doesn't help you now, because if you haven't done it before, you probably don't have any data. So I'm going to talk about how you can price out all the projects that you have coming up. So even if you have never time tracked in your life, what if I could tell you that you're going to get access to tens of thousands of website projects and all the time tracking data on all of those projects? What if I told you that there is a software out there where you can literally plug in the details of your project and within 60 seconds or less, get access to how many hours that project that you just plugged in there is going to take? And if you wanted to contract it out to a subcontractor, designer, developer, whatever, you could figure out how much they're going to charge. And you can do that in 60 seconds or less. Well, guess what, guys? This tool exists. So what we did here at Dude is we created a software called Dude to Go. And originally, I'm going to be honest with you, I didn't think that this was going to be one of the reasons that people can use the software. But very quickly, I learned that the data that we're providing is so unbelievably valuable to you guys. So here's how the software works. You have a development project. Let's say that you have a 10-page site. You're going to use Astra. You're going to use Elementor Pro. You're going to use Yoast as a plugin. You're going to use Google Tag Manager. Your hosting is on WP Engine. You've already got the design mockups already done. So you just need us to help you build it out. You literally go to Dude to Go. You plug in all that information. It takes like 30 seconds to do that. Then you click submit. As soon as you click submit, our software then takes your project and it finds all the other projects, thousands of other projects that we have done, that we have tracked time for, and it checks your project compared to all those other projects. And instantly it spits out and it tells you how much time that project is going to take. And if you want Dude to do it as a one-off, how much we'll charge. And then so within 60 seconds, you basically have that info. Even if you don't decide to work with us on that project, or you're basically just trying to make sure that you don't undercharge for this project that you have coming up, you have that hours data. So easy thing that you can do. Like, let's say your hourly rate's $150 an hour. And we turn around and we say, hey, that project's going to take about 120 hours, right? All you got to do is just take 150 times it by 100 hours and boom, you know that the minimum price that you should charge for development would be $15,000. It's a very easy way to justify charging a lot more money, guys. Like, this is the data. Whether you like it or not, this is the data. This is real life. We track every single project. We've tracked every single project for years, thousands and thousands of website projects, tens of thousands of hours, guys. You get access to all this data for free. That's the best part is Dude to Go is for free. It's free. We don't charge you to be able to use the service, to be able to get the hours data. Now, what does this do for you? This completely levels the playing field. Now you have the same access to the data, actually more data than any other agency that's out there. So other agencies that are out there that have been time tracking for longer than us, right? You have more data than what those guys have. So now you can better price out all of your projects and you'll never lose money on a project again. Or at least you shouldn't. So I'm going to close with that. So obviously the website that I just mentioned, dudetogo.io. You can go there. You can price out as many projects as you want. We'll get back to you very quickly. Now, we are kind of doing a beta launch right now. So right now, when you submit a quote, it goes to John, who's our head of biz devs, and then he emails you or calls you and tells you what the price is going to be. Eventually, once we've kind of figured out what our clients like from it, then we're just going to automate the whole thing. We'll be able to just press the button. It'll give you your quote like instantly, and then you can decide to buy. But right now, because we love human interaction, we feel that's how we learn, and we are able to improve the product. You'll get a call from John like a minute after you submit your quote, maybe 5 minutes. So yeah, go ahead and use that program. I promise you, it will change your life and it'll help you to be more profitable. And in the meantime, start time tracking for yourself. This is not just because you have access to Dude to Go. It's not an excuse not to time track your own stuff, right? You still need to do that. But Dude to Go is a very easy way that you can start getting access to this data that you are desperately needing to price out your projects. All right, guys, thanks so much for listening. Have a wonderful day. I will see you on the next episode. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, it would mean so much to me if you could share it with your friends, family, and basically anyone who will find the same value in this episode that you did. And to get the latest from me, then let's definitely connect on social media. You can go to Facebook, facebook.com/Dude Agency, or Instagram @dudeagency.io, or you can check us out on YouTube on our YouTube channel. And then, of course, you can always visit our website at dudeagency.io, where you can see all of our other episodes of Operation Agency Freedom. You can also register for any live trainings that we have going on how to run a highly profitable agency. And of course, you can see how we help digital agencies with the people, the processes, and the education so that they can take on more projects and scale profitably. Thanks again, and I will see you next time.